Hi, welcome to my channel. In this video we explore 5 compelling reasons why Ukraine may have no choice but to regain its nuclear status in order to defend itself against escalating Russian aggression and failure of international security assurances.
In 1994, Ukraine made a historic and bold decision that reshaped the global security landscape. It voluntarily gave up the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world. This was in exchange for a series of security assurances outlined in the Budapest Memorandum, signed by Ukraine, Russia, the United States and the United Kingdom. The agreement guaranteed Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, giving the nation confidence in the protective power of international commitments. Fast forward to 2024, however, and Ukraine finds itself grappling with one harsh reality: these promises have not been honored. The continuous Russian aggression since 2014, coupled with wavering Western commitment, has pushed Ukraine into a corner. Reassessing its nuclear status may no longer be a matter of choice but necessity. Here are 5 compelling reasons why Ukraine may have no choice but to return to its nuclear status in order to defend itself. At the heart of Ukraine's decision to denuclearize was the Budapest Memorandum of 1994. In return for relinquishing its nuclear arsenal, Ukraine was promised protection from threats to its territorial integrity and political independence. These guarantees were backed by major world powers like the US and the UK. However, the annexation of Crimea by Russia in 2014, followed by the ongoing war in eastern Ukraine, clearly demonstrated that these assurances were hollow. The Budapest Memorandum was not a binding treaty, and its signatories have failed to uphold its promises. The West has provided support, but it has fallen short of the robust defense needed to fully safeguard Ukraine from Russian aggression. The gradual realization that these guarantees are ineffective has eroded confidence in international security agreements, pushing Ukraine to rethink its own defensive capabilities. Without the protection it was promised, Ukraine must now consider alternatives, starting with the revival of its nuclear deterrent. Nuclear deterrence remains one of the most powerful tools in the international security toolkit. The Cold War demonstrated that nuclear weapons prevent large-scale invasions and conflicts due to the mutually assured destruction principle. Countries like North Korea have successfully used the threat of nuclear weapons to deter military interventions, despite being isolated diplomatically and economically. Ukraine's renuclearization would drastically change the regional balance of power. Russia's military invasions, including its illegal occupation of Crimea, might never have happened if Ukraine had retained its nuclear deterrent. With nuclear weapons, Ukraine would not only defend itself more effectively but also deter future Russian aggression. The very existence of a Ukrainian nuclear arsenal could make Moscow think twice before considering further territorial grabs. Given Ukraine's history as a key player in Soviet-era missile production and its legacy of nuclear expertise, it's clear that the country has the technical capability to re-establish a nuclear arsenal if it decides to do so. This could restore its strategic significance and dramatically alter the calculus of potential adversaries. While Ukraine has received military and political backing from Western allies, especially the US, NATO and EU countries, this support has often come with limitations. Sanctions, economic aid and military assistance have been helpful but have not stopped Russia's advances. The West's response has been piecemeal, often constrained by concerns over escalating the conflict, leading to insufficient deterrence against Russia's ambitions. For Ukraine, this inconsistent support has proven dangerous. The West's reluctance to fully commit to Ukraine's defense, as outlined in the Budapest Memorandum, has created a precarious situation. Without concrete guarantees and decisive military intervention, Ukraine's reliance on outside help looks increasingly risky. In the long run, Ukraine may conclude that it cannot depend on the West to ensure its survival, and that a self-reliant defense fueled by nuclear capabilities is the only viable option. Renuclearizing would eliminate the uncertainty of Western political will and provide Ukraine with a self-sustaining means of defense, unshackled by the fickle nature of foreign alliances. Despite denuclearizing in 1994, Ukraine remains a country with considerable nuclear expertise. During the Soviet era, Ukraine was a hub for missile production, housing significant parts of the USSR's missile development industry. Even today, Ukraine retains the scientific knowledge, industrial infrastructure, and engineering talent necessary to build nuclear weapons and intercontinental ballistic missile ICBM systems. Ukraine's aerospace and defense industries remain robust, and much of the infrastructure needed to launch a nuclear program could be repurposed. Furthermore, Ukraine continues to operate nuclear power plants, meaning it has access to nuclear materials. While building a nuclear arsenal from scratch would require significant investment and time, Ukraine is far better positioned than most countries to undertake such a project. The existing knowledge and infrastructure would allow Ukraine to redevelop its nuclear deterrent far more quickly than outsiders might expect, giving it a powerful new layer of defense. Russia's actions in Ukraine, combined with its aggressive posture towards neighboring countries, pose an existential threat to Ukraine's sovereignty. With the annexation of Crimea and the ongoing war in the Donbas region, Moscow has shown little regard for international norms or agreements. Ukraine's non-nuclear status makes it more vulnerable to Russian expansionism, as evidenced by the country's repeated violations of Ukraine's borders. Additionally, the collapse of arms control treaties between the US and Russia, such as the INF Treaty, has resulted in a more volatile security environment. Russia's development of new nuclear-capable weapon systems has also heightened the risks. Given these realities, Ukraine must consider the grim possibility that renuclearization may be the only effective deterrent to protect itself from Russia's growing military might. Furthermore, with the conflict in Ukraine showing no signs of abating, the pressure to find a long-term solution is immense. A nuclear deterrent could offer the kind of security that conventional weapon systems and external alliances have failed to provide thus far. In conclusion, the decision to return to nuclear status would not be made lightly. It would involve breaking international commitments such as the Non-Proliferation Treaty and would have profound global consequences. However, given the failure of the Budapest Memorandum and the inconsistent support from the West, Ukraine may see no other choice to safeguard its sovereignty. The lessons of the last decade are clear. Ukraine cannot rely solely on external guarantees for its survival. With its historical experience, technical capacity, and the growing threat from Russia, Ukraine may find that reviving its nuclear deterrent is not just an option, it's an imperative. In the face of broken promises, strategic threats, and regional instability, Ukraine's return to nuclear status might be the most rational, albeit controversial, decision to secure its future in an increasingly dangerous world.